Today, we're going to be talking about the web hosting options here at the IGB and at University of Illinois in general. I gave this presentation last spring, and I've since improved it a little bit. I learned a little bit more of what we have to offer and the pluses and minuses. So we'll just kind of go through everything that we kind of have. And the idea of this is, you want to set up either a simple lab website just for your lab, or maybe you have some custom application you want, or some software you want to buy that needs to be web hosted. There's this kind of covers them all. So what web hosting options do I need? So maybe you just want an informational website for your grant, as I said, or for your lab. Maybe you have a custom website that you've made that has a bunch of data, images or DNA sequencing data or something like that. Or you have a custom website with back-end processing. You do some processor intensive work or something like that. There can also be maybe you're hosting just as a standard program. There's a bunch of programs you can web programs out there that you can just download, and you just need to host it somewhere. And maybe, and also I'll be talking a little bit about online forums. There's some resources here on campus for that. So there's a few different solutions that we kind of recommend for here at IGB. In general. One is the IGB Drupal Content Management Service. This is the main IGB's website, and there's I guess I'll go through them, each individual things. But we also have our IGB Web App Hosting Service. This is a server that we have here. There's the Illinois Publish Hosting Service, and that's their website. There's the cPanel, the Illinois cPanel Web Hosting Service. There's also the IGB Virtual Machine Service and the Illinois Web Tools. I'll kind of go through all these in a little bit more detail. So the IGB Drupal server. So this is Drupal is a web content management system. This is what our main IGB website is on, but we also host other websites on this system. But this is meant for major websites, like you're bringing in that $50 million grant, and you need to show it off. So because of that, we have to work with the communications group, and they have to know very early, like when you're submitting the grant, to use this system, because they have to plan out, and it takes a while to get all going. But I think we have like 10 or 15 sites on this. So for most people, this is not going to be the route you take, but if you do have that big, large grant, this might be an option that you want to use. The other service that we have is the IGB Web or www-apps service. These are multiple servers or virtual machines actually that are physically located in our IGB server room. We have multiple of these servers. They run different versions of programming languages such as PHP, Python, and Ruby. There's also a MySQL database cluster backend. This is for standard, well-supported applications. So these are applications you might download that has a good developer base. It's well-supported. There's good documentation. This isn't for custom things that you might make. So we host all sorts of stuff on these things. So some of the examples is Bookstack. I know the core facilities uses this for their little wiki-based knowledge base. We have a Redmine, which is a ticketing system. And we have multiple, this thing called Booked Calendar, which is a calendaring system for reserving different instruments throughout the building, and some other reserving rooms. There's all sorts of different other applications, but this is free. I think. Yeah, free for IGB members, assuming that it's one of these standard applications. So if your lab needs something like this, one of these kind of standard apps, we'll evaluate whether or not that application does meet these qualifications. But there is limited storage and memory and processing power. I mean, we do have, whoa, I put that on the wrong slide. That is not correct. These are AMD EPYC processors, and but they are still limited in terms of you can only get like a processor or two, or, limited amount of memory, and there's a good amount of storage, but it's limited. So it's kind of meant for just kind of a web application with a database that you need to talk to each other. If you need something else where you have a lot of images, a lot of data, this is not the service that we would recommend. Um, yeah, we'll recommend the VM service, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But this is very standard. We've had this up for 20 years. We've been doing this. Other one is the Illinois Published Web Hosting. So this is provided by the University of Illinois for free. The website's published.illinois.edu. This is an easy to set up WordPress installation. Literally, you press pretty much one button, and suddenly you got a WordPress website. If you don't know what WordPress is, WordPress is another content management system is what they call it. It makes it so you just log into it and you can edit the web page or web pages. The nice thing about this is, hey, it's really easy to get going. All the updates and plugins are maintained by the campus, and they automatically update them. So for you, you do not have to really maintain it, as opposed to some of these other options where you have to do some maintenance. It also provides a University of Illinois braided theme. I think there's a few other themes, but the Illinois braided theme's the one that they kind of push to everyone. So it'll look like any other standard Illinois website. So this is perfect for simple lab or group website that you need for something. And grad student can set this up, give some people permissions, and you can put up your pictures and put up some simple things. And you can set up a domain name. So if you want, your lab.illinois.edu to go to this website, you can get that pointed there. But it is just limited to just WordPress and the available plugins that they support. So there is no expansion to this. So you're kind of like confined into our little box. But because of that, it's a little box, it's very easy to get going. The other more robust solution that Illinois provides is the cPanel web hosting service. This is also provided for free. You go to web.illinois.edu to get it set up. There is the nice thing about it is it does provide easy installation for WordPress and a few other standard web applications, but they do not manage it. So once you get it set up, you have to do the updates. You have to manage the plugins, and you have to do backups. They just kind of provide you with an empty box, essentially. So they also have limited storage. You get 10 gigabytes by default. This can be increased. I've only gone up to 20 gigabytes, which still isn't that much. So if you need a lot of data, like you're holding, 100 gigabytes of images, this isn't a solution for you. We've also noticed the performance is also just quite slow. I think the number of processors can be potentially increased, the amount of RAM, but I think they just don't have good high performance machines. The storage, this is what that storage actually is. They have Intel Xeon processors, which are over 5 years old. By default, you're given 2 gigs of RAM and 10 gigabytes by default. I think those can be increased a little bit, but I think they oversubscribe the processors. So like many sites are using the same processor. So things go kind of slow. We've had a few different people move to this service within the last year. And what happens usually is a group will get an outside service to develop a WordPress website, and then they suddenly want someplace to host this. So we suggest cPanel, and this outside consulting service will add all all these plugins and all this stuff to this WordPress installation, and then we have to maintain that, or someone has to maintain that, and so. Because of that, and because it's slow, you want to keep these installations as minimal as possible. And if you are going to do an outside consulting service, or to develop these sites, contact us first, because we would like to get involved to make sure they keep the number of plugins down to a minimal. and they don't use any plugins that are, weird or something that might not be maintained for, the next few years. And Illinois provides a whole knowledge base thing in here. But this isn't just limited to WordPress or some of these other standard apps. You're given a blank box, so you can install anything that's web accessible on here with a MySQL database on the back end. So you can have custom things on here if you wanted to, and it's all free. So it might be worthwhile for you. The other service that we provide here at IGB is our custom VM server. So this is more meant for larger websites with lots of data. So if you want one of these, you'll get your own virtual machine with a dedicated amount of CPUs and memory and storage, and you can pretty much do anything you want in there. If you have like a custom app that you purchased from an outside vendor, or maybe it is a standard app, but it requires tons of data, or maybe your lab made a custom application that does processing or, requires all sorts of resources, this is the service that we recommend. But it does cost money because we have to maintain it. We have to be able to make sure we are able to afford the servers we provide. So we do charge, and right now we're doing it per year. This might be changing to per month, but you can order by the CPU and how much memory and storage. And the minimum cost is, if you get just the minimum amount of resources, be $309 or $310 a year, which is, when you compare it to Amazon or some other service that you might purchase VM, it's very reasonable, and you get excellent performance. We got some very fast processors in these. Right now, we're actually in the process of moving this to a new system called Proxmox, which is a VM service cluster. So there'll be multiple VM servers, and they can like fail over and all sorts of cool stuff. That's coming online pretty soon, but currently it's just a single server with a bunch of VMs running on it. Users can be given sudo or administrative access to run certain commands, but the security and updates are managed by CNRG. So you don't have to worry about OS updates or updates for the OS packages. And these are the specifications for the current server. So we got quite a bit. I should say hard drive space. I believe these are NVMe's, so they're very fast hard drives. But this will be changing with the new Proxmox cluster here that's coming out. So those are kind of for what IGB, for if you want a website, we would recommend. It'll be either a custom VM or web app service, the Illinois Publish, or the Illinois cPanel. Those are the four that we'll kind of recommend if you want a website of some sort. The next part I'm going to talk about is web forms. So you say you need a web form for something that you want people to fill out, and they'll email you the results of that. So we got the IGB Drupal website. This is for permanent forms for repetitive administrative tasks. So the audience should be for IGB personnel or for IGB services. We need to involve the communications group to get this set up, but this is for like things that would be like pretty much permanently used for IGB or possibly a themes a task that they're trying to do. So like one example is like if you want to get your computer on our network, you have to fill out this network activation form. Facilities has a form to fill out the conference room space. There's some other ones in there, but maybe there's something that for your theme, or if you're that be kind of permanent and that it'll be set up and it'll always run. The downside is this doesn't accept credit cards, so you can't use this for credit cards. But for permanent stuff that's kind of IGB-ish oriented, perfect. I would recommend this. Takes a little bit of time to get set up, but it'll always be there. Illinois also offers this web tools. Users can set up these forms on their own, and they are permanent. And this is perfect for surveys, registrations, questionnaires, reviews, all sorts of stuff. And they provide very fine-grained permissions for all sorts of stuff. Who should receive the emails, who can view, who signed up, who didn't. I've used this for our some biocluster workshops to send out people who want to sign up for it and to send out surveys. the last few years, they've really improved this a lot, and it works out quite well. So, it- but it doesn't accept credit cards, so no credit cards. But for everything else, this is an excellent thing that you need to do. So, and you can set it up yourself. You don't need to involve IT at all for this. Another thing that's out there that a lot of people do, which I don't recommend, though, but they do exist, is the Outlook forms or Google forms. They're quick to set up. If you do need to set them up, should only be for short term. Something that's quickly and simple. You need to kind of get going to send, a quite simple questionnaire out. But they do get deleted if a user leaves, or they might, or who knows what policy Microsoft changes, or Google changes to where you can't find it anymore. So don't use these for something you want to use permanently. Just something that's quick and dirty that you need to get done. And lastly, if you do need to accept credit card payments, is to use the EITS form building program. This is a little bit more in depth. I think you have to involve us maybe to kind of get it going, or the business office. But an example of this is if you're having a conference, you need to get conference fees for it, or there's something else you're trying to do that requires credit cards. Campus for these web services, they have other offerings. They have tons of other offerings, and they've made this web page where you can select, what kind of thing you're trying to do, and it'll kind of recommend which service they recommend. So they on here, there's all sorts of other stuff. There's Azure, there's SharePoint, Site Fidelity, and they have their own virtual machine services, and you know a lot of this stuff, I don't know what's good or bad on their end, so I don't want to recommend them. But this might be a good place for you to kind of start, see what Canvas does offer. But I would first, if you're going here, first ask us, and we'll probably recommend you one of our known solutions. But if you want to go to the Wild West, go to the Wild West. Um, Lastly, just one thing about domain names. So for all these websites, you can get a domain name. So like you have a nice little looking web page. Um, so they can be, we can make a .igb.illinois.edu one for free, and pretty much the policies of that is whatever we feel is appropriate because we control it. We're not going to make it like my page, and we're not going to make it something so generic, but we'll make you required to name it after your lab or something like that. If you, something .illinois.edu, it is free, but it has to meet some University of Illinois guidelines. It can't be like a generic name. It has to be something identified with the group. And you can also get other custom ones .org, .coms, or whatever other domain names are out there. But those will cost money. But if you want one of these, do not purchase this on your own. A lot of grad students in the past they needed to get a website going, especially quickly, because their prior advisors like, hey, get it up and going. So they purchased the domain name on their own, and it's under their control on GoDaddy's website, or some other one of these domain sites. And we can't make any changes that way. And you're paying money for it, your own personal money. It's better to go through us, and we can initiate the purchasing of these domain names. And then when it's under U of I, we can give specific people permissions to change it, and be all set. Just in case you leave, the domain name will still exist. I ran everything kind of fast because I'm kind of quick. But that's what I have for web hosting. Does anyone have any questions or any things you guys are thinking about wanting to set up that you're, like, what would work for me?
I have a quick question. So the services with WordPress and CDM,
Mhm.
I saw they were free or any of them. Are they available for folks outside the UC system? Let's say an
Deep panel, so probably for external users, I know can log in, but I think to get them set up, it has to be a U of I thing. So like this isn't available to the public. So like if this nonprofit is somehow associated with U of I, you might be able to, finagle some way. But if it's just completely independent,
There should be some affiliation, some.
yeah, just so yeah, if you want to set up your own also home business or whatever, you got to do your own thing. None of this will work for you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add that you have to have a U of I login, it has to be VPN.
Yeah, you have to VPN to log in, all sorts of stuff.
But that's to get it set up. So it's like Dave said, you're maintaining it.
I was just thinking, for example, there are some nonprofit organizations, they have a website, but funding ends and they like another home for the website, which is a nonprofit.
Yeah, so it's a never-ending problem of finding solutions to that. Yes.
If I want to host some kind of like toy app for a class, so I think the first web solution you presented there would be a good fit and like if 90 students has logged in and tried it, will it be able to handle that?
What kind of website are you trying to?
Just kind of a toy model for something so that students can try something.
So if it's a model-ish kind of thing to where like they're clicking buttons and all that, that's probably outside Drupal. So, but you could probably maybe do on cPanel. Because cPanel gives you console access, SSH access, so you can install whatever on there. And I think they have different versions of PHP and Python and stuff like that. So like, you probably can get it on there working. Now, how many students? And I tell you the performance, speed might be an issue depending on what you're trying to do. But that might be the first step I would think to go at.
If you want to put R shiny.
Oh, that's VM. That's VM all the way. Yeah, the C panel's not really meant for processing. It's meant like if you need to have weirdo websites or more weirdo than just a simple WordPress. If you needed anything that's more than that, a VM is what you need it to go towards. Yes.
So like, for example, we have a lab website, but then if the student who's mostly working on the back end leaves.
Yeah.
This is just to like have somebody else just take over without like, okay, you're.
Yeah, so this is always a problem. So one, get one of us IT people on the admins. So if that person leaves, at least one of us can change permissions. 'Cause some of these sites, like on the publish and this, I, I'll start contacting people like crazy to figure out how to get access. But if you do it now, but then you can just ask us at the end of the day. Ideally, yeah, but all these with the publish and with the cPanel solutions, other people can get access, and there's different kinds of access. There's the cPanel's admin interface where you can make all the administrative changes. So that's super admin. But there's also you can have different permissions for if you're logging into WordPress. Like you can have edit to either a whole site or just parts of the site, or all sorts of options. But you always want to make sure that the super admin, it's not just, especially it's not just a grad student, but it's someone, and it's probably should be a permanent staff member or a permanent faculty member at least.
This kind of to what he's talking about. Consult with us.
Yeah.
We trying to set something up, some process. We're happy that all things are good. On looking back, best path forward, maybe. Oh, maybe solve some problem.
Yeah, and like just what happens to us half the time, like it happened a couple of months ago. Some people were starting to set up sites and it's kind of came out of nowhere. Or suddenly like, when did we make these changes? I'm like, what is this? What are you doing? So the earlier and evolve, then it's better, and we can put it in the right direction. We can make things work flow. The flow of it can work easier instead of, because usually by the time you're involving us at that end process, you really want to get it going in a day. And some of this stuff to get going takes a few days. Well, and Nils?
You provide programming services, website development.
We do not. So, if you need like a simple fix here or there that I see an error or something like that, I give suggestion of like, I'll put the semicolon in or something like that. But, if you need a website developed, you have to do that yourself. But I would still, even though we don't do it, still come to us and talk to about it. I've helped out a group recently, or I'm trying to help them out now, to where they're want to make a new website that's going to be put on a VM most likely in the future. And, you know, I'm going to make sure they put it all in GitHub, so they have, it's under version control and they have proper documentation and such. So when after this, student or postdoc leaves and they're done with this project, there's a central repository with all this code with some documentation. So it could potentially be reinstalled somewhere else or be improved upon by someone in the future. So there's all sorts of like, ideas and standards and things that we can help out with in that regard. Good question. Well, I will be here. If there's more food or drinks, go ahead. This has been recorded, so we'll put it up online here. So
Thank you.
thank you.